Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with doctors Alona Pulde and Matthew Lederman, authors of Wellness to Wonderful, 9 Pillars for Living Healthier Longer and with Greater Joy. I'm so excited because I'm all about, living better, but with joy that's so important.
Absolutely. I think, so many of us are on the trajectory to doing. We have in our heads living healthier and longer lives. But I think that component of joy is something that we forget or don't prioritize to include in that bundle.
And really, so how can you not think of food and joy in the same sentence, though, right?
Well, I think in diet culture and in so many people there's weight around food and what it means to them. And to some degree, we either go toward pleasure and leave out health, or we go toward health and forget that it needs to be pleasurable as well. But yes, that speaks to me. It's got to be pleasurable. You got to enjoy what you're eating to keep eating it.
Right. And we're not saying you can't cheat a little, right? But the idea is to be healthy as a whole human being.
Right. And the idea of cheating implies there's a right way and a wrong way, right? There's a good and a bad. And we really want to get people identifying internally what resonates with their values in that present moment. So in any given moment, you may be really content with food that's 100% whole foods plant-based. And then other times you might want to eat food that's, it's a special event and you're going out to eat and you're eating food that's a little more processed, right? So it's a matter of identifying what your values are and then aligning your behaviors to make sure that those are one in the same.
Got it. Yes, because you want to be all you all the time, not
right.
a
And
version, right?
Do what works for you, not what other people tell you is right or wrong. And that's hard for people. They're not used to doing that. In the world today, we're used to doing what we're told, what we think is right, what we think will get approval. We want to be measured externally instead of internally.
But it really does go, I know you believe this, I believe this, it really does start with the inside out, and literally and figuratively, right?
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to talk about the pillars, but can you give me just the quick version of how you got here?
Yes. So for me, it was reading a book that halfway through I thought was going to tell me to be vegan. And I said I didn't want to be vegan. I was on an Atkins diet, but it was saying I was going to feel really good and life was going to be a lot better. And I gave it a shot, and over a period of time convinced myself through reading that it was not only going to feel good, but be healthier for me. And I did all of that and felt fantastic and learned how to cook this way and never looked back since.
Awesome. Isn't it great when that happens, when you get this promise of a better life and it actually works for you?
Yeah, and it works, and it gets easier over time instead of harder, right? So I'm not using willpower, and my feeling is I'm 100% plant-based, and if there's ever a reason not to be, I'll deal with that when that happens. But I haven't had a reason up until this point, and this has been almost a couple of decades now. So to me, it's very open versus this restrictive. This is the right way. You have to do this, which feels like a lot of pressure, and I lose my autonomy and choice.
And I think personally, it's very satisfying to come upon a path that you're actually benefiting from. But professionally, as a medical professional, how wonderful to actually then be able to share that with patients and have them improve and get better, and which is why we went into medicine in the first place.
Well, to help people be healthier and live better, more fulfilled lives as a whole person. I mean, really, what's better than that? So, and so why this book? Why now? Why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, Matt and I look internally. We really try and have that internal barometer and take regular inventory of how we're doing and how we're optimizing our health and well-being. And several years ago, we kind of sat down and did that inventory and found, we're optimizing our sleep and our exercise and our nutrition, but we still don't have that joie de vivre. We're still not living that life is wonderful state. And what is missing? And in that kind of came the evolution of these 9 pillars, which we, in implementing them in our own lives, have seen such a dramatic difference.
So, what are the 9 pillars, and how have they made your life better, and how will they make everybody's life better?
Yeah. So the 9 pillars start with self, which you identified as kind of the beginning path. And it really is connecting to your internal intrinsic motivations. What is it that brings you to life? What are you excited about? So that we're not just running around like robots checking off boxes, but we really connect to the things that we do over the course of the day. And a simple example of that is, so many of us think, I need to formally exercise, so I have to go to the gym. But there are so many ways to get in movement that might be more pleasurable and sustainable than going to the gym. Or I have to eat broccoli and kale because that has been shown to be the healthiest food out there, but I don't like broccoli and kale. So, connecting to, oh no, there are a whole slew of other vegetables that you can pick from and actually enjoy and then eat. So it really starts with that self-connection and that internal check-in. And from there comes resourcing our body in a way that a lot of people know intellectually how to do. We do need to get sleep, and we do need movement, and we do need our nutrition, eating health promoting foods. But play is a really important part of that resourcing state as well. Getting ourselves out of activation mode, out of survival mode, out of fight or flight. And one of the quickest ways to do that is play. And once we've kind of resourced ourselves, then we can connect to the external world in a way that's really gratifying, satisfying, and brings us more joy. So that's connecting to our family and friends, connecting to our work, finding the meaning and purpose, connecting to our spirituality, however we define that, in a recognition of something that is greater than ourselves, and connecting to our natural world, plants, animals, our environment.
So, it's everything.
It's a touch of everything.
Right, because there's the internal, but also the external. And so how much control do people have over everything?
Well, people have a lot of choice. They don't realize they have choice in everything that they do and say, and how they think and how they approach the world. We also teach something called nonviolent communication. We're trainers in that, and we help. It's an important part of not only helping people learn how to connect to others, but also learning how to connect to what's going on inside of you. Most people think when we talk about self-connection is, oh, I already know, I know what I want. And they don't really know what they want. They know what they like or don't like as far as a feeling, and they try to get away from it. So this feels bad. Let me get away from that. Let me avoid it. Let me make it go away. But if I said, what do you really need? What in this moment, what are you needing? That's harder for people to really answer, right? I'm needing more predictability in my life, right? Okay, so how do I make choices that will help me increase the chance of having more predictability in my day? And I'm not worried about what's going to happen a year from now. I'm worried about the present moment. What can I do to give me more choice? And when you connect to your choice, you may not always like all your choices, but you always have choice. Then all of a sudden you feel empowered. And when you're connecting your choice and you're aware of your needs, again, you can make sure that your actions align in a way that they will meet those needs. And that's what then that's when you get pleasant feelings. When you get pleasant feelings, that's a sign that your needs are being met. When you have unpleasant feelings, it's a sign that your needs are not being met. So you use that as a barometer, and then you can go and take action to better meet those needs.
And the nice thing about the pillars is it might sound overwhelming to have all these 9 pillars that you think are living separately, but they are extremely interdependent, meaning paying attention and tending to one really impacts others. For example, when we get enough sleep, studies have shown that we eat more health promoting foods. We eat less calories over the course of the day. We have more energy to do movement. We're more apt to come show up for our family and friends with satisfying connection. We're not as tired, so we're more productive or efficient at work. There's so many things that can be impacted by making one change. And where it starts with self is also how much of this engagement, like getting creative around exercise and movement. Maybe I want to go and play basketball at the park. Now I'm not only moving, I'm playing, and I'm in the natural world. So they come together like that in a really beautiful fashion too.
I love everything you're saying. In my one of the things that I do, so I created the DEB method. I've got my book, Your Goal Guide, and my big thing is you can't get what you want unless you know what that is. And it's so important to take that time to identify that path, and whether it is for professional reasons or personal reasons, or you just want to be healthy. It starts by saying, I'm choosing me. Let's go.
Yes.
Right. And that's where here's an example. Somebody saying, having more headaches and chronic symptoms of discomfort, which are often a sign of a dysregulated nervous system, right? There's obviously other reasons for headaches, but in general, like a non-medically organic problem, right? So when you're aware of that, you say, hey, why am I dysregulated? Why am I in this fight or flight mode? Okay, well, you can either take Tylenol and try and make the headache go away, which is the common response, or Advil. I have a pain, let's make it go away and keep going. Or I can say, what's going on? And I can be, I'm dysregulated because I'm scheduling myself in a way that is overwhelming my body, and I'm living in this high alert state, and I'm always on my device with every free moment. So I'm getting constantly stimulated and there's no downtime. Okay, so now I can take action and say, how can I protect some time to have more space and downtime so that my nervous system can sort of calm down? And then that's going to help the headaches. So it's really important and there's obviously other reasons for stress, and I'm simplifying it. But you see what we're doing? We're not just saying pop the Tylenol or the Advil. It's to look at what's going on. And the 9 pillars are a great way to look at and use those as a benchmark. And between those 9 pillars, you're going to cover a lot of different things and get a lot of clarity that you might not have had otherwise.
Awesome. Now let's talk about food. So, okay, pivot. What foods do you think are the most fun and healthy? Because you were saying before, a lot of people think, oh, I have these 2 choices of foods that I hate. Oh, well, I guess I won't eat healthy. So what's your best advice for people who want to step in to healthier eating?
So when we talk about health and food, we talk about 5. We try to keep it really simple because there's so much confusion and noise out there. That's the biggest obstacle to achieving optimum health as far as your diet's concerned, is all the noise. So we have 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and we include starchy vegetables in there, legumes, and a small amount of nuts and seeds, right? And within those 5 food groups, if you eat any or all of those 5 food groups and eat until you're satisfied, and stop eating and don't stuff yourself, eat as often as you need to from those 5 food groups, you're going to be very healthy.
And the thing is that in those, you can eat them separately, of course, but you can combine them, and really are limited only by your imagination as to what you can make from that, whether it's a lasagna or an enchilada, burritos, pizza, burgers, desserts, pancakes. There's French toast. There's so much.
Right. We don't talk about just eating those 5 food groups. We say also make dishes using those 5 food groups as ingredients. So that's the key, and that's what's health promoting.
Do you have a recipe that you love that combines a lot of those that you would like to share?
That changes over time. Right now, I'm really enjoying this lasagna and this mole. So those are 2 recipes that I'm eating quite frequently just because I love them. But, call me in a month and it'll be something else.
And we also like to incorporate desserts, and those desserts can vary from having frozen fruit with a nut butter to having date and nut truffles, where we take dates and nuts and put them in a food processor And you can add fruit in there. You can add grains like oats in there. And then you pack them up into little balls, put them in the freezer, and they are delicious desserts to reach for when you're having a sweet tooth.
Right, and the key about the way we talk about it is to really align with what works for you. So we're not saying you have to eat, every single grain, or if you don't want to have grains, that's your choice. You can get your calories from other sources, but from those 5 food groups, figure out what works for you. Find recipes that incorporate as much of those food groups as possible, or as much from that, the percentage of calories, and then go ahead. So really, again, it's aligning back with what works for you versus doing what Matt and Alona tell you to do, and that's what you have to stick with.
Well, I love the truffles, and that what we were talking before about including a recipe, that is the one that I would love for the recap, because it's when we talk about eating healthy, we don't talk about the treats, and the treats are they're fun. They're treats.
Can I give you another one, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, for your recap? Because the data nut truffles are delicious. They're also more calorie dense. So people who are working to lose weight or maintain weight, they're not something that you want to reach for regularly.
Regularly meaning like multiple times a day. But if you have a little bit at night as a dessert.
Right. But there are, and it's on our website, WeHeal.health, Morning Glory Muffins by our chef and health coach. And they are not only delicious, they're actually nutritious and super, super healthy. And I highly recommend, they're our children's favorites. I highly recommend those.
Okay, can I have both?
Yes.
Please. I mean, it's food, but that's what you're saying. You don't have to choose. I choose not to choose. Let's share both of these recipes.
You got it.
What is it? Why do people have just such a strong emotional connection to food and family? Where do you think that comes from?
I think food is one of those, we talk about needs and then there's strategies to meet your needs. And people use food and were educated to use food and grew up in households that used food to meet a lot of needs that can be met other ways and are likely, it's more health promoting to meet those needs in other ways. So for example, a need to regulate your nervous system, swallowing and chewing, that does calm the nervous system down. But there's other ways to do that besides using food, right? There's ways to connect with family. And some people this is my favorite dish. And if grandma makes it, if you don't eat it, she's going to be so hurt because you're not eating her famous, whatever that is. That's a way that she shows love and connection and care. And there's ways to show love and connection and care without using food. It doesn't mean you can't use food, but if you're trying to follow a health promoting diet, and this is like deep fried chocolate brownies, right? You might want to say, hey, I gotta try and meet my need for health, and I want to support you to love and care for me, but can we do that with a different recipe? Right? So you see it's being aware of all the ways that we use food to meet needs and make sure all of our needs are being accounted for, not just love and regulation, but also health and connect, right? So we can do it all.
Do you either or both have I want to say a healthy food memory, but is there like one food that you take a bite of that brings you back to something?
My grandmother was really big on desserts. So when we have, and her desserts were a little bit different, but when we make a whole food plant-based cake or cookies or something like that, and I take a bite into that, that's very reminiscent of kind of remembering my savta.
Nice. So it can be a version of something from your upbringing that brings you back to a food memory. You don't need the same, what did you say, deep fried brownies, which sounds wonderful, but nothing I would ever even it would never occur to me. Well, it would occur to me to look at it, but I don't think I could do it,
That's the key, though. That's really important, is that when you are making dietary changes, the food is going to taste a little bit different. But it doesn't mean that that's not going to be as satisfying or as delicious. Different doesn't mean less than.
right? Because there's ways to meet your needs for that sweet, rich flavor, right? And I've seen chocolate covered Twinkies, right? But then there's also the desserts that Alona makes, or these other really talented plant-based chefs make, and they can do it without oil, even without certain sweeteners, right? Without sugar, the processed sugars. And to me, when you can make something with whole foods and still it's delicious and still it meets all these other needs, that's what we're shooting for. It's just an education process at that point.
Well, I have to say, I love my air fryer. I
Mm.
don't understand how people fry things in oil, because to me it just looks like, why don't I just drink oil? Not at all satisfying. But because we have so many ways to cook things that are healthy alternatives, so it's not just the food, it's the way we make the food.
Right.
Is another distinction.
Absolutely.
Is there something you know about food, health, eating, whatever, that you wish you knew when you started on your careers?
I mean, early on, I wish I knew about those 5 food groups, and that if I just focused on that, eating them as whole, unprocessed as possible, eating until I'm satisfied, I could eat as whenever I wanted, as much as my body said I wanted, and still be trim and healthy. And I just didn't know about that. The other would be to know that I can make these favorite dishes in a more health promoting way, and I can do that with the people that love me and that I love, and create new memories that now meet all of these needs instead of some at the expense of others.
Nice. I like that. Before we wrap, any final food for thought? I had to say it.
I can't emphasize enough how wonderful it feels to tend to these 9 pillars, to bring them to your awareness, to start with a connection of self and to branch out from there. It really is a game changer, and it takes a little bit, just like you said, it's an investment in you, but you're worth it. That's my food for thought.
Love it. Thank you so much, Alona. Matthew, please tell people where they can learn more about you, your book, and get all these wonderful bonus recipes.
Yeah. So you can go to our website, WeHeal.health, and get information about our book. You can get these recipes are there. They're all available for free. You go to Amazon to get our book. It's Audible, Kindle, print, exactly. So,
and we're offering a masterclass for going from wellness to wonderful that starts in September for anyone who's kind of interested in beginning that journey.
and we can access that on our website as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Alona, Matthew, for sharing all these wonderful tips, because life is a choice, and eating well and having that a whole healthy fulfilling life, it's something everybody has access to, and these are such great tools that you have to offer. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. You can subscribe on iTunes and or your favorite podcast platform, and go to jewishjournal.com to get recipes and read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. Your health journey, your choice, choose yourself. Thanks again, Alona and Matthew, and everyone else. Until next time, bon appetit.